You weren't born to sit on the sidelines. You weren't made to scroll through life, numb, broke, and afraid. You were born with fire in your chest and purpose in your bones. And yet, most men walk around like neutered sheep, waiting, hoping, wishing something changes. Let me make this clear. A real man doesn't wish. He builds. He doesn't complain. He conquers. He doesn't run. He protects. The world is brutal, unforgiving. It will take everything from you if you're weak. But if you've got the courage to rise, to work while others sleep, to fight when others fold, then you'll carve your empire from nothing, and you'll do it with your bare hands and unbreakable mind. This isn't about fame. It's not about followers. It's about legacy, strength, discipline. It's about being the man everyone else counts on, but no one can break. So ask yourself right now, are you building your empire, or are you just watching someone else build theirs? You weren't born to chase comfort. That isn't why you came into this world. Somewhere along the way, you've been told that safety and ease are virtues, that the pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of hardship are signs of a life well lived. But those voices lie to you. Real men understand that true fulfillment is found not in the cushioned seat, but in the responsibilities we choose to carry. From the moment you decide to protect what matters, you step onto a path that demands more of you than mindless indulgence ever could. Every time you choose to shoulder a burden rather than shrug it off, you prove to yourself that comfort has no claim on your future. In the crucible of hardship, you're not just tested, you're transformed. Those sleepless nights you spend strategizing instead of dreaming, those sacrifices you accept quietly while others bask in leisure, it all compounds. You build resilience, muscle memory in your mind and body. You awaken talents that only shine under pressure. It isn't glamorous, but the pain refines you, separating you from the crowd of men content to drift through life. Responsibility doesn't show up on your terms. It arrives at the dinner table when you want to scroll through social media. It whispers in your ear that every decision you make ripples outward, affecting people you love, strangers you'll never meet, and even the generations that follow. Too many men look for excuses to duck those ripples, claiming they're not ready, that one more night of comfort will somehow prepare them for tomorrow's storm. They're wrong. The only preparation you need comes from action, moment by moment, choice by choice, because the world doesn't pause until you feel prepared. When you embrace responsibility, you accept that your choices have weight. Maybe you've been irresponsible with your savings, living paycheck to paycheck in a haze of instant gratification. You tell yourself you'll get serious eventually, as though eventually is an acceptable currency. It isn't. Every day you postpone that commitment, you give away a piece of your future, allowing the world to shape you instead of shaping it. A real man takes ownership. He opens that bank account, researches how to invest, sets goals, and tracks every pound earned and spent. He doesn't wait for inspiration to strike. He writes the playbook himself. Being responsible also means protecting what you build. If you ignore maintenance on your car, eventually it breaks down. If you forget to nurture relationships, they wither. Life doesn't stop asking more of you because you feel lazy. It doesn't concede comfort to the faint-hearted. It demands vigilance, discipline, and above all, ownership that applies to your health, your career, your family, and your values. When you defend your standards fiercely, refusing to let toxicity into your inner circle, you're not being harsh, you're being exact. You're showing that some lines cannot be crossed and that only you decide what you'll accept in your world. Look around. Too many men have confused being pampered with being powerful. They chase likes and follows, believing digital validation equals real achievement. They wrap themselves in the illusion of comfort, ignoring the emptiness at the core of a life spent pleasing everyone but themselves. But underneath the veneer of ease, they're dying a little every day, distracted by trinkets while their purpose slips through their fingers. The man who refuses that superficial path says no to comfort and yes to commitment, no to fleeting trends, and yes to foundational principles. Responsibility elevates. It transforms an ordinary life into one worth remembering. When you commit to your obligations, financial, emotional, physical, you become the architect of your destiny rather than a tenant in somebody else's design. You carry your empire on your broad shoulders, and that weight makes you stand taller, think clearer, and act with intentionality. Comfort might feel good for a moment, but responsibility molds you into something lasting. A man who constructs his legacy piece by piece, day by day. Legacy isn't measured in Lamborghinis parked in your driveway or followers gawking at your every post. It's the fortress you raise for your bloodline, the code of honor you engrave across generations, and the values you instill in those who believe in you. Wealth is borrowed applause. It fades like the flash of a camera, but the names carved into the pillars of time, whispered around campfires, and revered long after your final breath, those are the monuments you need to build. In a world that idolizes instant gratification and the illusion of overnight success, it takes a man with vision to reject that detour and instead forge something destined to stand the test of time. Luxury seduces you with velvet ropes and crystal flutes. It masquerades as freedom while chaining you to fleeting pleasures. Legacy, by contrast, demands that you roll up your sleeves, sharpen your mind, and lay brick upon brick until your structure stands unshakable. A real man doesn't parade his timepiece to boast of his success. He conceals his watch in a drawer because he spends every second constructing institutions. Schools that raise future leaders, businesses that regenerate communities, and systems that embed opportunity into the DNA of every child steps through their doors. When you leave behind more than your bank account, when you hand down a blueprint for prosperity, you convert ephemeral wealth into everlasting influence. This isn't philanthropy for applause. It's an investment in the souls of those who will carry the torch when your name is recalled only as a starting point for others to exceed. A true empire isn't a collection of gadgets or gold chains. It's a collective movement. Your legacy is the apprentice you guide through late nights in the workshop, the neighbor you teach to cultivate a garden that feeds dozens, and the silent victories of the student who credits you for their newfound ambition. These aren't marketing slogans or hashtags. They're living proof that you cared enough to sacrifice your own comfort, cared enough to stand firm against noise and doubt, and cared enough to invest your very soul into something greater than yourself. You don't measure achievement by applause or likes. You measure it by the ripple effects that cascade across time, transforming lives that once seemed hopeless. When you discard the pursuit of luxury, you reclaim your purpose. A man surrounded by overt indulgence begins to question why he wakes at dawn, but a man on a mission to establish a legacy greets each morning with insatiable hunger. He doesn't long for another yacht or another exotic car. He longs for a plan, a strategy that can be handed down like a torch into dark hallways of uncertainty. Because yachts can sink and cars can rust and pleasures can fade, but the systems you design, the charters you write, and the rituals you establish become cornerstones, impervious to decay and capable of guiding new generations through storms they never imagined. Building legacy is constructing a barrier against entropy. Wealth evaporates, empires collapse, and names disappear unless anchored by unbreakable principles. When you ingrain integrity into every transaction, hard work into every process, and unity into every community you touch, you seed the soil for a forest that will grow long after you've stepped aside. That forest provides shade for your descendants and oxygen for humanity's future. It breathes with collective effort, expands through shared purpose, and defies the barren wasteland left by those who only chased personal glory. Protecting legacy is an act of vigilant discipline. It means refusing to splurge on a second mansion while hospitals lack resources. It means skipping that lavish gala when research needs funding. It means answering the call of crisis, no matter the hour, because an empire left unattended is an empire lost to complacency. You stand guard as the sentinel of your values, scrutinizing every hire, every partnership, and every decision to ensure they align with the blueprint you've carved. If you let standards slip and indulgence eclipse duty, you'll awaken one morning to discover your empire has been usurped by entitlement. Leadership emerges as a natural byproduct of genuine legacy. People don't pledge loyalty to those who chase status symbols. They flock to those who offer substance, structure, and shelter. When apprentices see that your empire isn't built on ego but on empowerment, they become ambassadors of your cause, carriers of your banner, and architects of your vision's next chapters. This multiplication effect ensures that your name becomes synonymous not with extravagance but with empowerment, resilience, and generational transformation. Now ask yourself, are you stacking marble floors to gleam in the sunlight? Or are you stacking memories that will outlast generations? Are you slinging bottles in a crowded club? Or are you slinging books to empower the next wave of trailblazers? Every choice nudges you toward the glittering mirage of luxury or the enduring monument of legacy. And your empire starts with the decision you make right here. Right now, discipline isn't a suggestion reserved for ascetics or retired champions. It's the iron backbone that turns wishful thinking into unbreakable habit. When comfort whispers in your ear, promising an easy path, discipline slaps you awake and demands you move forward. It doesn't negotiate, it doesn't bargain, and it doesn't care how you feel. It's the difference between men who chase fleeting highs and men who carve empires from stone with nothing but sheer will. Wherever opportunity hides behind a gauntlet of effort, discipline stands at the gate, armed and ready to tear down every excuse. Your alarm screams at dawn, and for most men it's merely an annoyance, a chance to press snooze and drift back into half. Dreams of glory. But discipline treats that alarm like the starting pistol of your life. It drags you from the warmth of your blanket, forces your feet to the floor, and orders your body into motion. While the world slumbers, you're already 3 sets into your workout, plotting your strategy, sending emails, building the foundations of your future. Every extra hour of sleep is a small surrender. Every minute spent moving toward your goal is a conquest of self. Discipline shapes identity more cruelly than any coach is bark or drill sergeant's whistle. It demands that you keep showing up when results lag, when pain gnaws at muscle and mind, when the mirror reflects exhaustion and doubt. It's the voice in your head that says, one more rep, one more page, one more franchise call. It doesn't take pity or offer comfort. It simply reminds you that you chose this path, and now you carry the weight of that choice. And with every repetition, you reinforce the unshakable truth. You are a man of action, not of excuses. The mind is a battlefield, and discipline is your commanding general. Thoughts wander like restless soldiers, itching to follow impulses and fleeting desires. But discipline corrals those thoughts, assigns them duty, and sets them on the mission of your making. It trains you to meditate on mastery rather than mull over misfortune. It teaches you to analyze setbacks without wallowing in self-pity, to replace "I can't" with "how will I." It drills focus into your consciousness until distractions become noise that bounces harmlessly off your resolve. With a disciplined mind, you see opportunity in chaos and clarity in confusion. Physical discipline is the forge that tempers your body into a weapon. You eat according to macros, not whims. You train according to plan, not mood. You rest according to need, not indulgence. Every time you choose a green meal over fast food, you strengthen not just your muscles, but your conviction. Every time you force yourself through 1 more kilometer, 1 more set, you reaffirm that resistance is growth and comfort is decay. Your body becomes a monument to your discipline. Lean, strong, responsive, and unwilling to yield when the battle intensifies. Emotional discipline is the fortress that shelters you from storms of doubt and criticism. It means refusing to let anger or fear dictate your actions, refusing to let praise inflate your ego, refusing to let setbacks derail your progress. It anchors you in equanimity, teaching you to feel deeply without being ruled by every high and low. When others crumble under pressure, you stand firm because you've trained your emotions like any other muscle exposed them to stress, pushed them beyond their limits, and watched them harden into resilience. You face the world unflinching because discipline taught you that composure is power. In every relationship, discipline carves respect. You keep your word, show up on time, hold yourself accountable, and demand the same from those around you. You don't tolerate lazy friendships or half-hearted partnerships because you know that the only way to build an unshakable empire is to assemble men and women who reflect your discipline. You lead by example. When others see you conquering your own excuses, they learn to conquer theirs. And in that collective pursuit of excellence, your influence multiplies, your vision expands, and your empire anchors itself on deeds rather than promises. Discipline isn't an accessory you slip on when it's convenient. It's the foundation you build even when nobody watches. It's the whisper in the back of your mind that insists you get up when the bed feels too warm, that tells you to keep grinding when the applause dies down, that pushes you toward excellence even when success seems beyond reach. Comfort is fleeting, but discipline is eternal, and through it, you become the architect of your own destiny, a man who conquers not only his world, but himself. From the first moment you wake, you carry a responsibility that transcends ambition or ego. Strength isn't a badge to pin on your chest, it's the shield you raise for those who cannot stand alone. When you cultivate power, you forge armor that repels chaos and shields innocence. You become the fortress at the edge of a storm, a living bulwark against forces that would prey on weakness. That power, physical, mental, emotional, financial, becomes your pledge, to fight when conflict demands it, and to protect when peace must be preserved. A man who knows true power understands that it isn't chaos unleashed, it's control mastered. He trains his body not to dominate for dominance's sake, but to ensure that if violence ever comes calling, it finds him ready. Every drop of sweat spilled in the gym, every disciplined meal and disciplined rest, adds another layer of plating over his will. In his hands, strength is an instrument of safety. It is a promise that no threat, physical or otherwise, will breach the walls he has erected around the ones he loves. But strength without strategy becomes brute force. That's why a real man sharpens his mind alongside his muscles. He studies history's greatest defenders, learning how they anticipated danger, arranged their defenses, and neutralized risks before they materialized. He hones his instincts so that when trouble lurks in the shadows, his thoughts ignite like a flare, illuminating the threat and guiding his response. Intelligence complements power. It focuses it, directs it, and ensures that every ounce of strength serves to shield rather than to intimidate. Emotional resilience anchors his protective mantle. He doesn't crumble under stress or let fear compromise his judgment. When children cry at night or crises erupt in the workplace, he remains the calm center. His composure in chaos sends a silent message. Panic solves nothing, preparation does. He absorbs anxiety from others, converts it into steady resolve, and becomes the rock against which storms break and dissipate. In his presence, those around him feel safer, secure in the knowledge that someone has already confronted the fear they carry. Financial power extends the radius of his protection. He builds wealth with the same discipline he trains his body, not for ostentation, but to fortify his family's future. Every investment, every prudent saving, is another bastion against the unpredictability of life. Emergencies, medical, educational, unforeseen, find him equipped rather than overwhelmed. Wealth becomes an extension of his fortress walls, funding opportunities and shielding loved ones from hardship. He never confuses flashing luxuries with genuine security. He invests in assets that grow and sustain, not whims that evaporate. Leadership through protection inspires loyalty and trust. When his team, his family, or his community sees that he stands between them and danger without flinching, they rally behind him. He doesn't command through fear. He earns respect by demonstrating that his power exists to uphold and defend. Others learn from his example, adopting his vigilance and discipline. In uniting under his protective banner, they forge bonds stronger than any chain of command. Together, they become a network of guardians, each accountable to the values he embodies. Vigilance is the silent partner of strength. He remains aware of his surroundings, alert to potential threats, and ready to act without hesitation. He rejects complacency and comforts that lull him into passivity. He trains his senses, eyes scanning perimeters, ears attuned to unnatural sounds, mind attuned to patterns that signal trouble. He isn't paranoid, he's prepared. And that preparation means that when danger approaches, whether in the form of violence, betrayal, or crisis, he responds swiftly, decisively, and effectively, ensuring that his fortress never yields. Protection through power isn't a role you wear for showmanship. It's a commitment woven into every decision and action. You live by a code that values the safety of others above your own comfort. You train relentlessly, think relentlessly, and care relentlessly. You build your body, mind, and resources into a unified force field around your circle, choosing every day to fight and defend rather than to flee and abandon. In that choice, you become more than a man. You become a guardian, an unbreakable defender whose presence alone stands between chaos and order. From the moment you first clenched a stick and knocked together two stones, the drive to create coursed through your veins. It whispers in your bones when you daydream of turning raw materials into monuments, of transforming nothing into something that bears your name. Creation isn't a polite suggestion. It's a roaring command that won't quiet until you set plans in motion. You draft blueprints in your sleep, sketch ambitions on napkins, and plan expansions in the margins of every conversation. It compels you to plant seeds in barren soil and watch them grow into forests that bear witness to your vision. That instinct to build is the heartbeat of a man who refuses to drift through life as a passenger. It insists that you take the wheel and chart your own path. Conquering isn't limited to battlefields or boardrooms. It's the act of seizing opportunity the moment it shimmers on the horizon. You scan the landscape for weaknesses, gaps in the market, cracks in the armor of complacency, and you strike with precision. While others debate the merits of play-by-play, you take decisive action. You recognize that fortune favors the bold, that hesitation sows the seeds of regret. Whether you're negotiating terms, launching a product, or negotiating a turning point in your own mind, you step forward with unwavering conviction. You acknowledge that every conquest, great or small, reinforces your identity as someone who refuses to kneel before chance. To build without conquering is to labor on a foundation that can be toppled. To conquer without building is to hold spoils that cannot sustain. That's why a real man weaves those instincts together in a relentless cycle. He doesn't simply seize ground. He plants his flag and then constructs an outpost that endures. Every acquisition becomes the cornerstone of something larger. When you win a contract, you don't pocket the check and retire. You reinvest it in teams, systems, and innovations that multiply your strength. When you break through a barrier in your own mindset, you codify that breakthrough into a set of principles that guide your next ascent. The act of building and conquering are two sides of the same blade, each sharpening the other, until you become an unstoppable force. You feel the itch to erect skyscrapers of steel as surely as you feel the need to claim the summit of a mountain. You don't wait for permission or for perfect conditions. You take the raw potential around you and bend it to your will. Every blueprint drawn on crumpled paper, every prototype clattering into shape, is a testament to your refusal to accept good enough. You know that nothing worth having comes from sloth or second guessing, that primal insistence pulses through your muscles when you haul heavy beams as much as it hums in your mind when you architect strategies that outmaneuver giants. When you conquer, you don't celebrate with empty toasts. You turn victory into the fuel for your next constructive endeavor. You understand that trophies rust and titles fade, but the systems you erect can outlive your lifetime. You channel that triumph into training regimens that birth stronger bodies, into mentorships that raise stronger minds, into enterprises that create stronger communities. Your victories aren't monuments to your ego. They're stepping stones for legions of men and women you lift behind you. Securing isn't a passive act. It's a vigilant process you forge through discipline and foresight. When you claim a territory, you don't simply plant your banner and walk away. You gird your fortress with protocols, guard it with loyal allies, and reinforce its walls with continuous innovation. You don't tolerate complacency. You scrutinize every angle for vulnerabilities and patch every weakness before it can be exploited. That same instinct that drives you to dominate compels you to shield what you've earned, because you know that any empire, no matter how grand, can vanish in the blink of an unguarded moment. Every day, you wake to the knowledge that creation without conquest is hollow, and conquest without security is fleeting. So you rise early, map new ambitions, and launch your plans into motion. You navigate complex terrains, economic, physical, mental, with the confidence of a man who trusts his instincts and refines them through experience. You forge alliances that amplify your strength, and you dismantle obstacles with the clarity of purpose that only comes from knowing who you are and what you were born to do. There is no finish line in this journey, only new horizons to claim, new foundations to lay, and new strongholds to reinforce. Your nature insists on it, your mind thrives on it, and your legacy demands it. Every sunrise brings fresh ground to conquer. Every blueprint invites a vision to build, and every challenge begs you to secure the world you're shaping. Because in the heart of a real man, the instinct to create, dominate, and protect is as relentless as time itself, a force that will not rest until your empire stands unshakable.